On the 31st of January 1990, more than 30,000 people passed through a new McDonald's in Moscow. The Soviet Union still existed. The Cold War was not officially over. They queued in the snow for a restaurant built around a very plain promise. The same food, made the same way, fast. 36 years later, that promise had become 45,000 restaurants in over 100 countries. It did not begin with Ray Kroc. It did not begin with the hamburger. It began with two brothers who became obsessed with removing complexity from a restaurant. Richard and Morris McDonald moved from New Hampshire to California hoping to make money in the movie business. That did not work, so they went into food instead. In 1940, they opened a barbecue restaurant in San Bernardino. It was a conventional Southern California drive-in. Car hops, a long menu, customers eating in their cars. It made money. The brothers still thought it was badly designed. Too many items slowed the kitchen. Car hops cost wages, plates and glasses had to be washed. Every custom order created delay. So in 1948, they did something that sounds insane. They closed a profitable restaurant for 3 months and rebuilt it from nothing. When it reopened in December, almost everything familiar was gone. There were no car hops. Customers walked up to a window. The menu had shrunk to a handful of items. A hamburger cost 15 cents. Paper replaced crockery, and each worker now did one narrow job over and over. The brothers had stopped thinking like restaurateurs. They were thinking like industrial engineers. They chalked a kitchen layout onto a tennis court and walked their staff through it again and again until the movements were efficient. They called the result the speedy service system. Long before Ronald McDonald, the promise was speed itself. French fries replaced potato chips in 1949. Thick milkshakes joined the menu, but the real invention was never a product. It was the process underneath the products. The kitchen had become a production line. The brothers also understood something less obvious. The system had to be visible from a moving car. So they designed a red and white building framed by two enormous yellow arches. The arches began as architecture, not as a logo. The design history involves several people, including the architect Stanley Clark Meston, and the surviving accounts disagree on the details. What is clear is the intent. The building was a billboard. You were meant to recognize it at 40 miles an hour. The brothers even franchised the idea themselves. They sold 14 franchises. 10 of them opened. And then, in 1954, an order for 8 milkshake machines caught the attention of a traveling salesman named Ray Kroc. Kroc sold multi-mixers. One restaurant ordering 8 of them implied an extraordinary amount of business. So he drove to San Bernardino to see it. He was 52 years old. By the standards of founder mythology, he was arriving very late. He had spent decades selling paper cups and kitchen equipment with mixed results. But watching that kitchen work, he saw something the brothers had not fully pursued. The opportunity was not one busy restaurant. It was replication. Kroc persuaded them to make him their national franchising agent. In April 1955, he opened his own showcase restaurant in Des Plaines, Illinois. It took $366 on the first day. That restaurant was later promoted as McDonald's #1. It was not. San Bernardino had been running for 7 years, and other licensed restaurants already existed. What Kroc built was not the concept. It was the organization that could copy it. And he was unusually strict about how. He preferred selling to individual operators rather than handing whole territories to investors. A franchisee earned the right to a second restaurant by running the first one properly. Kroc wanted a customer to walk into any McDonald's and find the same thing. That takes more than enthusiasm. It takes procedure. Fred Turner joined the Des Plaines restaurant as a counterman in 1956 and became the person who turned instinct into measurable standards. How hot? How long? How many? June Martino held the young company together, mediating between a set of forceful personalities. Even so, it was improvised. In one often repeated story, a Bible salesman called at the office hoping to sell a Bible and left as a prospective franchisee. A company obsessed with repetition was still itself, being made up as it went along. Kroc's relationship with the brothers deteriorated. He wanted speed and freedom. They wanted to protect what they had built. In 1961, he bought them out for $2.7 million. There is a famous story that the brothers were also promised 1% of future revenue on a handshake, and that it never appeared in the contract. The evidence for that is thin and comes mostly from later family accounts. It is disputed, not established. What is certain is smaller and stranger. Kroc did not buy the original restaurant. The brothers had to rename it. Kroc opened a McDonald's nearby, and the original eventually closed. But even Kroc could not fund expansion out of hamburgers. Harry Sonneborn built the structure that made growth durable. McDonald's would acquire or lease the sites, control the buildings, and collect rent from its own franchisees. That gave headquarters something a restaurant chain does not normally have: recurring income and real leverage over its operators. People sometimes say McDonald's is really a property company. That is too neat. It is a restaurant operator, a franchisor, a brand owner, a landlord, and a supply chain, all at once. But the property was the foundation the rest stood on. Hamburger University opened in 1961, turning kitchen knowledge into a curriculum. The company went public in 1965. The brothers had built a fast kitchen. Kroc, Turner, Sonneborn, and Martino built an institution. And then something happened that proves the whole point. The first great menu decision had been subtraction. The 1948 rebuild worked because Dick and Mac took things away. But once the system was stable, careful additions became possible. Almost none of them came from head office. In Cincinnati, a franchisee called Lou Groen was losing money every Friday in a heavily Catholic neighborhood. He developed a fish sandwich. In 1965, it became the first new product added nationally. In Pittsburgh, Jim Delegati built a double-decker burger. It went national in 1968. In Santa Barbara, Herb Peterson put an egg on a muffin, and by 1975 McDonald's had a breakfast business it had never planned. A corporation famous for conformity kept depending on individual operators to invent its most famous products. Headquarters did not supply the ideas. It supplied the machine that could test one, standardize it, and put it in thousands of kitchens at once. That is the thing the brothers actually built. Not a hamburger, not a logo, a method. Take something complicated, turn it into a process, teach the process, measure it, and repeat it until it works anywhere. McDonald's did not conquer the world because it invented fast food. It conquered the world because it turned a restaurant into an operating system.